Well, hello, Corrine Graham. I'm so excited to be here with you in the spotlight. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm excited to tell everyone about you and your background and what services that you offer. So, why don't you start and I'll just have you tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your background. Where did you grow up? Where are you from? And where in the world are you now?
Well, I'm not really from anywhere. I'm from everywhere because um, my mother's French, my dad was American, and they met in France, and I was born in London. But then I grew up all over the U.S. and I grew up all over France, and I also grew up in Germany because my dad was military, so I traveled all over the place. But where we spent the most time in the States and where I got my university degree and my heart home in the States is California. But I live in France now and have been here with my California husband for almost 18 years now. We've been in France. So,
Wow. And what part of
yeah.
France are you in?
We're in southern France at the base of the Pyrenees Mountains. So, for anyone who knows France, we're about an hour from the city of Toulouse, and we're about an hour and a half, an hour and a half north of Barcelona if you go right over the mountains.
Oh, it sounds fabulous. So I want to just have you share a little bit about your pivotal moment. Like what happened in your life that brought you into animal communication and the energy work, the healing work that you do? Was there like something, maybe the light bulb went off, or you had one of those where the world just kind of stopped and it made you expand and think, I need to do this. So, what was it in your life that brought you to this work that you do?
Well, it's interesting because I started out as a child really communicating with animals, really being close to them. I'm an only child, so they were my best friends, they were my siblings. And as happens to many of us, when your parents and the people around you and your peers start saying that you're strange, it's a little odd, it's all in your head, you kind of, stop doing that. And and so then I just thought, oh, okay, well, I'll just do what people are telling me to do, and go the science route. I'll still work with animals, but I'll be, very left brain. And I kind of went that whole route for many, many years. Over 20 years, I've, have an animal science degree, and then I did dog training and genetics and behavior and everything. And it's probably at the beginning of COVID, I would think, that I all of a sudden felt this need to do a lot of self-development work and get more in connection with my spiritual side. And I just felt like there was something missing. And so I started doing a lot of that work. And it was during that time, during a meditation, actually, I was really deep in meditation. And then all of a sudden, I just got all this heat, really, really hot hands. This heat just rushed through my body. And I heard this voice as clear as day, as like if I was talking to you, that said, you need to heal animals with your hands. And I was like, oh my gosh, what does this mean? And it was such a shock to me. And I think any other time in my life, I would have said, oh, that's just crazy, it's in my head. But I had finally gotten to a point in my life where I realized that there was something missing. There was a missing link in all this work and all this knowledge that I had around animals. I always felt like there was something missing. And so I thought, you know what? I need to just follow this. I need to follow my intuition and see where this leads me. And I didn't know what it meant yet. And I just kept looking for signs. And all of a sudden, things about energy medicine and healing touch and quantum touch and acupressure and all these things related to energy healing and just I started becoming bombarded with them, and I wasn't looking because I didn't know what I was looking for. And I thought, wow, if this isn't a sign from the universe. And so I followed it, and I started, trying to understand what it meant and how to harness it. And, got some mentors who were telling me, you really have a gift and you really need to just run with this and don't hold back. And, even working on my own animals, I realized, oh, wow, they're asking me for it. And on a daily basis, I will have whoever needs energy work will come and bump me and kind of hit my hands like, come on, give me work, mom. So it was a huge awakening for me that took me, I mean, I'm in my 50s now. I mean, it took me 50 years to finally come to the realization of what I was doing when I was a child is what I was meant to be doing all along. And I was just, like blocked from it. And it's wonderful because I finally feel like this is my dharma. I finally feel like, oh yeah, of course, this is what I was supposed to be doing all along.
I think
So it's amazing.
So many people can relate to that, just blocking what came naturally to you as a child and what you just were passionate about, and finally stepping into that and being like, yes, this is what I do. And yes, this is who I am. And, I am not going to hold back anymore. How much of my lifetime has to go by for me to say, okay, now's my time to do what I really love and what I really want to do. Now is the time. So I applaud you. Yay, you, Corrine.
Thank you.
That's so cool. I'm so excited for you. I can relate to so much of your story. So thank you for sharing that. So in your work, so I hear healing and energy and animal communication is all part of your work. What's your specialty? Like, what do you offer? Do you have like animal communication and healing services? Like, what could someone expect?
I mean, I do. My specialization is definitely energy healing for dogs because I have, if I look back at all my training that I've done over the last 30 years, it's all been around dogs. So, I've done homeopathy and herbal medicine and essential oils and positive dog training and genetics. And so I have a really complete background specifically around dogs. So I feel that I can then really offer a balanced energy therapy session because I have so many tools in my toolbox specifically for dogs. And I also offer animal communication. But at the same time, even though I'm specializing in dogs, obviously I've worked with horses, I've worked with cows, I've worked with cats, sheep, rabbits, you name it. So I do work with other animals. It's just that I can bring more tools to the table when it comes to dogs to really give a complete session and offer many different recommendations depending on what I see and what I feel that particular dog would benefit from, in addition to energy therapy.
So you kind of combine all of your talents. Like you combine your animal communication. I imagine that comes in really handy when you're doing your energy work, that you can obviously get
it's essential. Yeah, it's essential because that's what leads me down the right path. Because if not, I'm just guessing, kind of like a veterinarian does, because I don't have that interaction. The dog or the animal in general leads me down the path of what type of energy therapy would be beneficial in this particular instance, because it's always the dog that's going to tell me what it needs. The owner helps, they are going to give clues, but the dog is going to give me the final piece of that puzzle. So yeah, definitely.
I love that. I think all veterinarians should be required to be animal communicators.
Oh, that would be amazing. I actually have a friend who's a veterinarian, and she's taking animal communication classes right now. And I think it's amazing. And I was like, I told her, I said, can you just move to France? She's in the States. I said, can't I just move you here and you can just be my personal vet for my dogs? So yeah, I think it would be amazing. That would be, what a beautiful future that would be.
I think so. I think it should be a part of their education is to learn animal communication. I mean, that's their patient. They should be able to communicate with their patient, right? Okay, so what would be the benefit? Like if I had a dog that was having an issue, give me a scenario of a common issue that your clients contact you for and how you help resolve whatever it is. Like what is something, a session that you do that we could expect if we book with you?
Well, I mean, it's hard to pinpoint because every every dog is so individual and every issue is so different, and the type of modality I would use would be different. But every dog, no matter if they have an issue or not, the owner is going to see an increase in the overall well-being of their dog. And depending on what issue is at hand, they're going to definitely see an improvement in either the health of their dog or the behavioral issue, because behavioral issues, believe it or not, are really, really accepting to energy therapies, things like fear and panic and anxiety and separation issues. I have one of my own dogs who has had fear since he was a puppy, related to a traumatic childbirth. And I had tried everything in the past, and it wasn't until energy therapy that I was able to finally break those patterns. So, overall, any kind of well-being is going to be better for the dog, and the health or behavioral issue is going to improve. And also, I find that it really helps deepen the bond that owners have with their dog, because they see them in a different light. And a lot of time, people who come to me are people who have tried everything else. And, they've gone to and they've tried all the traditional therapies, and they've sometimes even tried other types of non-traditional modalities. And they're just at a point of frustration, or kind of banging their head on the wall going, is this ever going to be better? And I find that, once they realize that, getting in there and communicating with the dog and finding out where they're at and what path we need to go down, it automatically deepens their bond with them, because they learn something about their dog that they didn't know about before. So, yeah.
Very cool. And I want to add something there. You said something about experiencing trauma during the birthing process. I also want to add that I've had it come up many, many times in my sessions that if the puppy, kitten, foal, whatever the creature is, if the birth mother experienced trauma,
yes,
that particular baby in utero experiences the trauma. They'd have a hard time describing to you what happened, because they were in utero, right? So how do you explain that? But they absorb the mother's fear or anxiety or whatever. And this came up time and time again, where the client would say, but I've had this animal its whole life. It's never had anything bad happen to it. Well,
exactly.
It's a whole new spin on it, right? Because you may not have had the birth mother.
It is.
So something.
It is. And that's interesting. Yeah. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, it's okay.
No, but
I heard your story, and I'm like, oh, that reminded me of
yeah. No, well, it's interesting, because in my toolkit and all my past iterations of my life, I was also a dog breeder, and because I have this kind of left brain Cartesian side to me, and I have a genetics background, and physiology and anatomy, it makes sense, even if you're not right-brained or woo-woo, because if you're just looking at stress hormones, and that's just cortisol and stress hormones. And if the mother is stressed in any way, and so fear, if she has any kind of fear, if she's put in any kind of physical stress, that all gets passed to the fetuses. And some are just stronger constitutions. And so it's not like every puppy or every kitten or every foal, foal, they usually only have one, but it's not that every, individual in the litter is going to show those signs. It's just that some are either going to get more of that hormone, or they could all get it equally, but some are just have stronger constitutions. And so it doesn't come out unless they're put under extreme stress, and then you might see it. But so even that, you don't even have to go right-brained at all to really understand where it comes from. And that's something that I like to bring into, because sometimes when I work with people, it might be the first time that they're trying an alternative modality. And I like that I can then explain it to them with science also, because a lot of times they go, oh, okay, well then that makes sense. And you can kind of make that bridge between a left brain, thought and a right brain thought. And you can see the connection between the two. So I definitely use that a lot.
Absolutely. I think some people feel better or feel more relaxed, or like they're grasping it better if there is some kind of description or explanation that is more of the scientific.
Yeah.
So I love that you have that in your background. That is super
Yeah.
cool. And so interesting, right? For everyone who's watching that, if you've had a pet, an animal, a companion animal, and you don't know where that fear came from, we could have just answered your question for you right there, or whatever the issue is.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Doesn't have to be fear. It could just be some kind of
Yeah.
behavioral or whatever.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. And
You're welcome.
so how does someone find you? Share your website and tell us how to get in touch with you. And
Yeah.
you typically do 30-minute sessions, hour sessions. Like, tell us, how we can find you.
Sure. So my website is enlightenedanimal.com, all attached. So www.enlightenedanimal.com. You can also find me on Facebook and on Instagram, and it's the same thing. It's just Enlightened Animal. It's pretty easy to find me. I answer emails and Facebook messages and Instagram messages all the time. I'm always checking, so I'm very reactive on that end. I currently offer my energy sessions are always an hour because it does take a long time. I mean, even if I'm doing just a really basic like chakra balancing, that's going to take me at least 45 minutes to get through the animal. And that's just, the tip of the iceberg. So my sessions are an hour for energy healing. And I do offer a special for booking 3 at a time, because I've found that a lot of times one session alone, we've started to peel back the onion, but there's always more layers. And if you really want to see significant change over the long term, I found that 3 sessions are ideal. And depending on the issue, sometimes they're close together and sometimes they're really spaced apart. It really depends on what's going on with the animal. And I do also offer 30-minute animal communication sessions also on the website for someone who just wants animal communication or wants to get to know me and doesn't want to commit to a bigger session, which obviously the energy healing, because they're longer, they're more expensive than the animal communication. So if someone wants to get to know me, yeah, they can do that as well.
And on your sessions, are they done over the phone, or how do you do your session? How do you conduct your sessions?
So I'm based in France, but I'm completely bilingual. I obviously speak English. I also speak perfect French because my mother is French. So I've spoken both languages since birth. So I conduct my sessions in both languages, and I do them remotely most of the time. I'd say 95% of my sessions are done remotely. Obviously, if you live in the Toulouse region in France, I'm more than happy to meet you in person. But most of my clients even my French clients, most of them are not close. So with energy healing, similar to animal communication, you can do it anywhere. Energy is universal and travels distance and time. It's not a problem. There's only a few tiny, like 2 modalities that I use that have to be done in person, but I very rarely use those anyways. So it's not a problem. I do everything by Zoom. Energy healing, I don't do with energy healing, because I'm working really with the dog. I don't do a Zoom call. What I do is a Zoom call afterwards to discuss where I felt blockages, what needs to be worked on, what I felt I don't actually do that live. Animal communication, I do live on Zoom, but energy healing, because I'm in my bubble with a dog, I'm not going to have someone sit on hold for an hour while I'm working on their dog. So I just set up like a 15-minute call with them afterwards to go over what I find. And everything I do also comes with a transcript. So if it's a communication or an energy healing, all my notes get transcribed, and they get that in an email as well, to be able to go back and overview, or if they want to take it to their vet or another practitioner, then they have everything. They don't have to recall what we talked about. So
super cool. So thank you so much for sharing all of this with us. And I just think it's fantastic that you are fluent and speak fluently in French, and that's so unique. Do you think you could close out by saying something in French for all of us? We won't know what you say, but share something in
Well,
French.
in case you never know, maybe you have some French listeners out there. A lot of French people actually do go and listen to. They speak. A lot of them speak really good English and follow a lot of English speaking pages because they're not finding what they want in French. So I guess I'll say. Si vous êtes français, vous habitez en France, n'hésitez pas de venir voir mon site web parce que c'est bilingue. Donc, il y a l'option en anglais et l'option en français. Donc, vous pouvez tout recevoir en français, tout lire en français et je serai ravie de parler avec vous un peu plus sur la guérison énergétique et la communication animale. Merci.
Wow, that was so cool. What did you just say?
I just told people that if they're French and they are interested in my services, that my website is completely bilingual and they can click on the French icon and find all the services in French. And I'd be more than happy to talk to them more about it.
That was so cool. Thank you so much, Corrine. And it has been a pleasure talking to you today. And if you're interested in booking a session, I encourage you to go to Corine's website. Again, it's Enlightened Animal, singular, right? Yes. Animal, enlightenedanimal.com. And her name is Corine Graham. And thank you so much for being with me today in the spotlight.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.